Hello and welcome back to the RevOps Show. This week's episode is the last one of the year before we go on holiday break. So if you're picking up the show now, go back and watch the previous episodes. We'll be back in full swing in 2022. To all of our listeners and viewers out there, we just want to say thank you so much for your interest in the show. If you're feeling extra happy this season, we'd appreciate the help in getting reviews on the show so that more people like you can access the hot takes and insights. In terms of the show, today Jess and Doug are discussing Deal Desk, what it is, who's involved, who may not be involved, and where to start setting one up. So with that, let's get into it.
Jess.
Doug.
I see that smile on your face. You're in a vacation frame of mind. You're in a vacation state of mind, aren't you?
There are 4.5 work days between me and a vacation.
And why don't you tell everybody where you're going?
To the happiest place on earth, Disney World.
You know, there would definitely be people that would disagree with both statements. Happiest place in the world and that's a vacation.
Well, you know, I feel bad for those sad individuals because it is my happy place.
So what makes it such the happy place for you?
Well, you know, you had brought this up yesterday that part of the enjoyment for me is the fact that you have to heavily plan it. And as an ops person, that's very exciting for me. So the Disney vacation is not just the week that you're there, but it's the lead up to it and all of the planning.
So what you're saying is that the trip, the visit to Disney World is really the celebration of the vacation, which was the hours and hours of minute logistical planning to figure out how to cover the greatest amount of ground in the resource allocation that you have days in park.
Correct. Yep. 100% accurate.
Gotcha.
That's why it's my happy place.
So are you able to be there and feel like to have time to do nothing, or do you feel like
yes.
if you're not doing stuff, then there's your
no, we have downtime.
Part.
We have downtime, we have relaxation time, all of that. So yeah, no, it's not go the whole time I'm there. So it will be a vacation. It will be relaxing.
And 8-year-old and 5-year-old, right? And how old's the oldest, the third child?
40.
40. So 40, 8, and 5.
Yep.
And last time you went, how long ago was that?
It's been 2 years. So this will be unique because I haven't been obviously since COVID. So we'll see. We'll see kind of how it's different. Probably more masks.
And there were there was one meltdown last time.
We had one meltdown. She was 3. The 3-year-old lost it and had to take her out of the restaurant. But that's not a Disney vacation if that doesn't happen. I mean, let's be honest. Like, I have full expectation we're gonna have a couple of meltdowns. I might have a meltdown while we're there. It's possible.
You should go for it. You should go for it. You know, I had one other question unrelated to the vacation. I was watching one of my favorite dumb movies, Back to School, and I realized, this year being the year of the Olympics, you think about all the years and all the work that's been done in diving and just how much better the divers are but still no one has done the triple ending.
Oh man.
Right? I mean, why hasn't anyone done that one yet? That's supposed to be the ultimate.
I don't have a good answer for you.
Don't have a good answer for me?
No.
All right, I guess we better get to our topic of the day, Jess. What are we talking about today? What's the RevOps topic we're talking about today?
I want to talk about Deal Desk.
Oh, boy, it's a good thing that we're only having RevOps people listen to this, because you've just caused heartburn for thousands and thousands of sales reps.
Possibly the RevOps people too. We'll see if we get into it.
It's probably true too.
So this is actually something that came up for the first time for me with a client of ours a few years ago, and I had never heard about it. So Deal Desk is a fairly new concept for me. So I kind of wanted to just talk about.
You shouldn't say that out loud, Jess. It's an old concept.
Sorry. Sorry. I want to talk about what is Deal Desk and how do you know if you need it. So let's start with the first question. What is Deal Desk for those of us that aren't familiar with it?
I mean, so a deal desk goes back it goes back generations of salespeople. It really, in the beginning of salespeople would be working on certain things, and the deal desk was kind of where the central, it's where all information was exchanged. So I'd come back and, estimators had to do things or things had to be priced. So it's kind of the deal desk was literally the desk, was the, someone responsible. And if you think in the marketing world, you might call them traffic managers. The deal desk kind of originated in a traffic management element. Because, and again, if you think about it, where sales really originated as a profession and a discipline was manufacturers' representatives who would represent more than one manufacturer. So you'd have different inventories with different people that were constantly being updated, different pricing, and so forth. And so Deal Desk was the one that made sure that that the salespeople had the access to the information that they needed, and then that further, not that salespeople would ever not pay attention to the detail that they needed to pay attention to, or would ever have a contract or agreement completed without all the necessary data and information. It was kind of and this is where Deal Desk, I think, got misapplied in a lot of ways, and got, this is where the heartburn comes from. Is it was responsible for ensuring that sales reps were in compliance with whatever systems, tools, and processes. So it was almost like the quality control inspector 7 of sales process. That's how it got implemented in a lot of ways.
So I heard you talk about pricing and compliance. Those were kind of the two keywords that I pulled out. So what is Deal Desk's job to be done? Is it being able to put the right pricing in place and compliance for the sales reps, or is it something different?
Well, a lot of ways especially if you go back a long time ago, and even where I see it today, Deal Desk, again, it's the traffic manager, right? So the traffic manager didn't put the creative together. The traffic manager didn't choose the photo. But the traffic manager makes sure that the right image is in the right place at the right time where these things come together. And so, probably the primary role that historically Deal Desk played was that of intermediary and facilitator. Before the order goes back to, operations to make sure everything is complete on the quote, or before something was going to get quoted, do we have all the information? Oh, no, you missed this information. You've got to go back and get. So it wasn't, and by the way, from a pricing standpoint, it wasn't that Deal Desk was pricing it. It was, and again, remember, this goes back to when pricing was in catalogs,
Right.
When hot sheets came from your manufacturers that had updated pricing or were running a special on here. It was, going through those catalogs or whatever the case may be. So now I don't think I answered your question fully, but I don't remember fully what the question was. So,
well, you gave us a really good history of Deal Desk and kind of where it came from. But what I want to understand is, in today's world, what is Deal Desk's job? Like, what are we thinking about the jobs to be done? What are we hiring Deal Desk to do today if we have a Deal Desk team?
So I think that it's situational, right? I don't know that I would. So technology comes along, and if you build your CRM, and you build your systems and you build your structures and you build your processes correctly, a lot of what a Deal Desk did is done automatically now, right? So I can quality control information by setting up the technology correctly, and instead of it being a pushback that says, "Oh, you did this wrong," I can set it up so that reps are cued to get it right, and in very much the way that Total Quality Management eliminated Inspector 7 and built the genius into the system. With the proper implementation of technology, I can eliminate a lot of the historically prime functionality of what a Deal Desk does. That being said, there are, and I think we talked about it, may have been in the last episode. There are there are aspects that you can automate.
Yeah.
And there are aspects that you can't automate. There are aspects that require, and I think if they require human intervention, you want to look to remove that requirement over time. Now, the worst thing you can do is force the removal of that requirement. But ideally, as technology gets smarter, and as we get smarter and as we have more at bats in designing our system, we can eliminate the requirements. But there are also places where human intervention, where the process benefits from human intervention. So it might not be efficient, but it benefits. So, I think Deal Desk can manage a lot of complexity. So, and like I know in a situation that, with the client where you became familiar with what Deal Desk was, one of the things that the Deal Desk did was when an opportunity hit a certain stage, it was triggered to the Deal Desk to review the company to make sure that it was a company that based upon what the opportunity looked like, the path it was going on, was this a company that we could deliver?
Yep.
Can we even sell to them? And you couldn't do that before. And there was information that the rep would learn about the company, and then there was data resources that they had that determined whether or not they were involved in various networks that would make that match. And that was a place where, you needed somebody to look at and understand what the nuance of something was, and based upon what the context of the situation was, it could eliminate that opportunity as an opportunity, or it could change the path or what the rep was required to do and what information was necessary for the rep to get through the process to commence to a sale. And your choice there was, I can have the rep figure all that out. That's a very bad use of a rep's time. And there was a lot of arcane components that go into it, right? And so that was a place where the Deal Desk could make sure that the rep doesn't get too far, right? And so it reduces wasted time. It also had the effect of, because they couldn't get too far, it reduced the likelihood that they were going to miss important information because it had to get cleared beforehand. And so somebody else was doing that research that, fit much more in the rhythm of their day, and, they had more of that knowledge base anyway. So that was an example. There's an example of a traffic management function. In its own way, anytime, if you're involved on, where you need to estimate something, or what's the basic scope that's involved here, you've got a Deal Desk functionality. You may not call it a Deal Desk, but I see a lot of places where the sales rep reaches out to the estimating department and talks to an estimator, and right. And one of the things I know about that, those are high friction situations, because every rep talks about the situation differently. Every estimator approaches it differently. So there's lots of confusion that happens there. There's an opportunity where a central clearing place, I think, could probably handle that better. You could actually pick up efficiency. And while, you have an element where, okay, we need to get this estimated, and that might be a process that takes some amount of time. The estimator might have to, reach out to different suppliers, configure. Someone might be working on scope ideas or things like that. And you've got a rep, without a Deal Desk, the rep is going to kind of hold that and carry that. What's the progress on this? Checking on that. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. With the Deal Desk, you've got, an isolated place where, okay, I get to turn that over to the Deal Desk, and now I've got a central place in terms of contact and communication. But also, I now know that it is in the hands of somebody that is viewing the complexity and that holistic. And we've got a situation where we've got a variation of a Deal Desk, because as a rep is moving forward, there's an assessment that gets done that involves different different members of the engineering team coming together to review things. And that's not something that is conducive. That's not the best use of a sales rep's time. And so that deal desk manages that. So those are some examples of kind of the process management side of things. Then I think there's also a strategic element of a deal desk. So even when you don't have the process management side of things, I've always been a fan of what I call an opportunity review team. And that is, there are certain stages where that are high value, high inflection in terms of how I'm managing that sales process. And when you're in the sale, you have what's called an insider's view. A deal desk, the strategic side of it, an opportunity review team maintains an outsider's viewpoint. Sellers are naturally optimistic, right? I'm a pretty skeptical person, and I manage the what's wrong with this picture about as well as anybody. But when I'm in the sale, I'm obviously seeing things that say, this is an opportunity that's worth it. And you can't balance both of those equally well. Having an outside perspective that says, have you considered this? What about that? Is this really, what's the juice for the squeeze? Where are your blind sides? What patterns are we seeing that are opportunistic? What patterns are we seeing that are negative? And what a good review team will do is they'll not only help reps spend less time on opportunities that they're going to end up wasting time on, but they'll also identify paths and opportunities where the win becomes bigger. Or, hey, there's this, there's a 33% chance this is going to be an obstacle, but if we do this instead of this, we'll reduce that. Or, so again, it's having that outsider's viewpoint and building more of that collaboration so that we're more focused in on what are the right actions, what are the right things.
That makes sense. So if you don't have a deal desk team or a deal desk function, whatever term we want to use, what are some indicators that you might need to create that? Like, what are the triggers that I know, okay, you know what, I need to implement some kind of opportunity review or deal desk?
Yeah. So I would actually think of it, I mean, like, I wouldn't go in saying, do I need a deal desk?
Mm-hmm.
I think anytime you're seeing lots of friction in a place, or lots of confusion, any place where you see wasted time. I mean, look, the data on how much time salespeople spend selling versus how much they spend managing administrative aspects. One of the places where I think you've got an opportunity, where a deal desk type functionality can come in is, what are the things that reps are doing that frankly they'd be better off having someone else do. I mean, if you go back to the days of Don Draper, every salesperson had a sales admin who took care of all their, who took care of that admin stuff, yeah. Right? And I'm not suggesting we go back to those days in any way, shape, or form, but I am saying that, the beautiful thing about technology is we've been able to, reduce the headcount in those, moving things around roles, but to some degree, it's also then fallen way too much on somebody who probably isn't very good at that, and isn't, and that's not, you're overpaying them to do that, candidly. So I think, again, any place where there's a lot of friction, any place where salespeople are spending time, if you see false positives. So, if I see closing rates, I mean, one of the best ways to increase closing rate is to introduce a deal desk, introduce an opportunity review team. Because, by the way, the fastest way to increase the close rate, the fastest way to increase your win rate is to ask fewer people.
Yeah.
Right. But an interesting thing is, I think we put too much on a rep to qualify, right? So we're putting too much on the rep to exclude. and we throw all kinds of numbers at reps, like sales cycle time, close rate, sales velocity, which most people calculate sales velocity differently than how we calculate sales velocity. And so you end up bringing a rep, a rep ends up filtering more and more and more, right? And then they get told, well, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right.
Right. And then they're told, well, why did you move forward with this one? And what I think people don't understand sometimes is I actually, when I'm, especially if I'm in growth mode, I think you want a percentage of false positives. I want a rep to be to err on the side of pursuing something that shouldn't be pursued.
Why is that?
Because you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Because you learn a lot more when it's no. Because when my job is, like, if we look at a conversion rate and we say higher conversion is better, then we naturally, that becomes a score.
Yeah.
Right. And so we naturally close our filter. Right. So we play into our comfort zone. One of the things that's nice about false positives is we learn something about a tangential market, potentially a tangential need. Okay, this is a false positive for what we're doing right now, but maybe as we understand it more, maybe that's a place where we do broaden our solution. There, hey, wow, maybe there is this need over here. I think that, when like, as an example, when we work on messaging, we always work to put too much in the draft that we share.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'd rather edit out. And how often is it something that we edit out, but in the editing out of it, it actually sparks something that leads to what the core message is that is better. And so if we, in essence, edit that before, then we don't see. And I think the natural element when we talk about these things is, and again, especially when it's incumbent on me, is I'm naturally going to move tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And I'm probably going to miss a move, right? Yeah. I'm actually going to be less agile because of it. Whereas if I'm bringing in some, then on second hand, it's probably not worth it. Or a lot of times, it's not worth it yet. We talk about sales and marketing alignment. That's one of the great places where, hey, we just had this situation yesterday where this is something that marketing needs to do, right? Yeah. This is something that marketing needs to pick up. This is a message that we need to, because like it's a good fit from a demographic standpoint, with the company, but their specific situation, like, it involves a whole lot of other change and other elements. And the reality is, I think that the path that our client's going to go there is a marketing element that teaches, brings a teaching point of view, and then also a partnership, because, this piece that we're seeing that makes it not really a fit for sales. Part of the reasons it's not a fit for sales is there's a core element of the change that's going to happen that our client doesn't have anything to do with. Well, this might be a great place for them to create a partnership with organizations that do address that aspect of it, so they can provide more of a full solution. They could broaden their market, but it's not their resources, it's not their cost that have to take all of that. They'll be able to leverage that with a partner potentially. If we weren't bringing in that false positive, then we wouldn't learn that. See, one of the reasons that deal desks have bad names is because they get called the sales police. They get called the, Department of Sales Prevention. There's a conflict that exists, right? We think there's a tendency to always think of conflict and tension as bad, right? And certainly conflict and tension can be bad, but where there's no conflict or tension, there's no growth. Where there's no conflict or tension, there's no energy. Right. And so there should be a tension between that, or else we get more and more tunnel in how we think about things. So that, so if to a degree, reps should always be, especially early. Let's err to the side of it being positive, and let's have systems in place that kind of force it in. And I would say, a lot of times I see things that at first, heck, how many times have I told you, you just had this conversation? Oh my God. Yeah. You want to talk about it being a met, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
But then in that, in the underlying process that we then follow through, all of a sudden the quality of the deal increases. Well, we learned that with false positive. And I can tell you, when your win rates get too high, that's actually a sign of you're losing some resilience, right? Because you're not entering those new markets or those new situations where you couldn't win those before, right? So like if you're looking to grow, you better be increasing your average lifetime value. You better increasing average sale value, right? Those things better be going up. Well, that means I'm going to be entering markets. I'm going to be entering opportunities that aren't fits for me today.
Right.
Right. But having that come in and being able to see that and ensuring that, what a good deal desk, what a good opportunity review team does is it actually builds a learning organization into it. So you become more robust, you become more resilient.
So who should be on the deal desk team?
That's a very hard question to answer in a generic fashion. I think there needs to be somebody that's head of sales oriented from a strategic element. What level of, I guess, are we talking about the opportunity review side of it, or are we talking about the process side of it?
Let's talk about the opportunity review side. Who should be on the opportunity review team?
You should probably have somebody that has some authority and leadership on your operations side, maybe on your finance side, certainly on your sales side, and probably marketing. You might even have ultimately a rotating opportunity review team. So like in larger organizations, you'll have multiple people that come together. Not everyone's not reviewing every single opportunity. You probably want to have a sales engineer, or a solution designer that is a part of that. And here again, this is where we go. The business process has to drive the implementation of the deal desk, not the other way around. And you need to have, there's kind of an element of what makes a good opportunity review person. And that's why I like a mix of disciplines in there, because they're going to view it differently. But part of what a good opportunity review team will do for a sales rep is strengthen the sales case earlier in the process. So the opportunity review team will say, no, we don't see this as good. And the sales rep has to make their case for why it's good, right? Why it is a quality opportunity. This is the path to the win. And it forces the rep to think through things, and to strengthen or to realize, the number of times you identify missing role players, other elements like that, those come in. So it really is, who are the people that are most impacted by a sale happening? Where's the friction? What are you optimizing for? That's where I think you get into, that's how you begin to comprise the who.
Is there anybody who shouldn't be on the opportunity review? I said deal desk, but really we're talking about opportunity review. Is there anybody who should not be on that team?
I'm sure there are, but again, it's to answer that generically.
Depends on Okay.
Yeah. And gotcha. When you start off and you're small, it might just be, it might just be the VP of sales. It might just be the owner of the company.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be complicated.
So if you don't have a deal desk function and you're looking to create one, where do you start? Like where do you kind of start to be able to introduce this functionality, and what are kind of the key components that I need to be able to have a deal desk review or an opportunity review?
So this is why deal desks have bad names, is because they're treated generic. Like I think, what's the problem that you're solving? I think deal desks should form, fairly organically, and especially when we're looking on the process side, the deal desk might be something that is temporary, because ultimately your tech should be able to take over a lot of that. But one of the things that happens is, one of our key principles of effective tech implementation is, if you can't do it manually, you can't automate it.
Yep.
Right. And so one of the mistakes that happen is we see this problem and we go, oh, well, let's just make that rule in the CRM. And that actually creates even more havoc. Right. So you might have, a deal desk functionality to deal with this as you begin to get your hands around it, that again is going to come. Where's the friction? What are you trying to do? And so I would say this too, if you're starting out, I don't think you want to come out and have a full deal desk where we're now going to address everything. You begin to, a good deal desk should increase the resilience and velocity of the sales organization, which doesn't always mean it creates efficiency in all facets, because part of what a deal desk does is it slows things down. Actually heard a quote on this, slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. And it comes from like the 15-mile rule. We're going to advance 15 miles every day, no matter what.
Yeah.
Whereas instead of, and apparently it's a military term, like the way the infantry move, advanced infantries move, et cetera, less trained, run forward, take as much ground as fast as they can, quote unquote, as fast as they can. It's kind of our conversation of the difference between speed and velocity.
Right.
But they end up going too far. They outstretch their supply lines, or suddenly, when they do get attacked, they're in a, they moved into a terrain that they didn't fully understand. So now, getting into the right position to defend, et cetera. And so if it's not smooth, and if you think about it, if it's not smooth, you can't be fast. You can't be fast.
Right.
It's disruption, right? Lots of disruption. So you need to slow down to be smooth. And the story of that is it's consistency beats sprints.
Yeah.
Right. So you start off and you go, okay, this is a piece, this is an element. And like I said, where are reps spending time that they shouldn't be spending time? Where are we seeing disruption that would help us organizationally if we had less disruption? That's where I would begin to experiment with a deal desk type functionality. And
would you start with specific opportunities where you're realizing that things are getting held up? Is that how you would kind of determine
what
opportunities?
It might be opportunity types, or it might be like I said, hey, like I know with one of our clients, I'd love to see them introduce deal desk functionality around, how they move to quote. I think reps waste way too much time putting quotes together. I think they'd be far better off if they put it over. And by the way, I'm also a believer that this is never give sales rep pricing power. Right. I remember one of my favorite stories from Kevin Plank, who is the founder and CEO of Under Armour. He told the story that, when he started the company, he carried two cards. One card, he was president. The other card, he was VP of sales. Right. And the reason was, so when he was talking to a prospect or a customer, he was VP of sales. They'd ask for a price concession and he'd say, look, I want to give you the price. Like, absolutely, I want to do this. But, it's not my call. I got to go back. I got to talk to the old man, so I'll see what I can do.
Right.
And then when he was talking to a vendor, he used the president card because he was now asking for the discount. He was asking for the price concession, and he was making it clear, look, the decision rests here. Right. And, the number of days number of times I wish I didn't have, when I'm selling, I do get to set the price here. In a lot of ways, I'd be better off if I didn't. Right. And so now with good CPQ technology, you can automate that. And now you don't need the desk for this, but in this client's case, their situation is complex and they don't have all the data to be able to automate that. So it does require some manual components to it. Now, I know that they have a lot of reps there that would be very mad at that. Oh, no, I need to estimate this. Right.
Yeah.
That's reps being unwilling to give up control. And I'm going to say, look, we're a sales organization. We're not sales individuals. And, one of the tough things to understand is optimizing for the organization is not always optimizing for the individual. So there's the element of that control. And then the other aspect is, it's Parkinson's law, work expands to the time allotted. And so it's like, okay, this is one of, I'm going to say this, when reps are putting quotes together, they're not doing sales work, right? It falls into the category of it looks really important, but it's a hell of a lot easier to do that than it is to make the next call, have the next conversation, whatever that case may be. My question is that really what I want my reps doing, putting those pieces together? Wouldn't I be better off having somebody else who does that all the time and knows the flow and the pieces in the front end and the back end, et cetera. So that, so I would say again, where is time being misspent? Where's disruption? Where's friction?
Okay, gotcha. So as far as like, if you were to implement a deal desk and you want to know if it's effective, so what I'm getting from you, I think a lot of people might use sales cycle time to kind of measure effectiveness of deal desk. But what I'm hearing from you is you got to identify the points where you're getting slowed down, where there's too much friction, and then look at those specifically to see if deal desk is kind of helping with those pieces.
Yeah, I would say to some degrees, deal desk might actually increase sales cycle time for how sales cycle time is actually measured. And I don't think that that's like the role of the deal desk is not to reduce sales cycle time. I would say it's to reduce the value of time spent. It should increase, like not having a rep do quoting naturally increases the capacity
right
for the rep if it's done correctly, right? So there's a capacity component. I know that reps are like, oh my God, I got to get a quote right now. It's like, it's 2:30 on Wednesday afternoon. Oh wait, I got to get the quote right now.
Yeah.
Well, you could get the quote to them on Monday. It's not going to make any difference, right? Heck, the person has headed to the conference, right? They're not back until Monday. So having somebody else do it would actually slow that down. But again, it's about matching, it's about matching activities. If there's a lot of rework that gets done, if there's a lot of, hey, this is getting turned over to our operations and now, and they're stuck. I mean, how many times have we dealt with the onboarding problem is they're missing important pieces of information? Well, a deal desk. And by the way, you can have deal desk where it, at this point it goes to deal desk, or the deal desk is monitoring the reporting through the process. So as things are progressing, they're able to see, boop, here's, hey, this deal's at this stage, it's missing this piece, right? It's pretty, if we can get this information now, it's probably going to help. And if you think about what we do, and actually maybe we should start calling it this, a lot of what we're doing and how we build out CRM implementations is we're building automated deal desk functionality.
That's interesting that you bring that up because in my research of kind of looking in deal desk and prepping for the episode, I don't think people think about deal desk that way. I think most people are looking at it as, at this point, it goes to deal desk for review, but they're not looking at that functionality could actually be monitoring the whole process and you're not actually stopping and
correct.
So what you're talking about is it could potentially go through the whole way with deal desk overseeing it and not quote unquote stopping to go to deal desk, or like, but if it's missing something at stage 2, deal desk would come in and say, hey guys, we've got to get X, Y, and Z on this to move the opportunity forward. Yeah, that's it. That's interesting. I like I said, I don't think that it's being thought about that way, and I had never thought about that, but that is a lot of what we do.
Yep.
Cool. Well, I think I mean that piece was certainly interesting. I think the other point that got brought up is the quality. Deal desk can kind of help impact the quality of the time spent by the rep. So while it may not reduce the sales cycle time, it certainly would increase capacity of the rep and make sure that their time is well spent, and pick up efficiencies there.
Yeah, and again, I'm not saying that it will increase. I'm just saying that, like, if I'm looking at deal desk and I'm using sales cycle time as a measurement of deal desk, then you're not likely going to have a particularly effective deal desk.
Yeah.
Again, what I'm looking at is velocity.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a lot of different ways in terms of how you want to ultimately measure that. And by the way, there's so many sales velocity metrics that at the end, I always forget, it's the denominator on the bottom, right? I'm pretty good at math, but I can never remember which is the numerator and which is the denominator. I'm pretty sure the denominator is on the bottom.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, the problem when you use sales cycle time as a key aspect of the metric, that's the denominator. And that means the fastest way to increase my number is to have fewer days. Well, the fastest way to have fewer days is wait to log my opportunities. Don't move on an opportunity, like I've got low probability opportunities that are in our pipeline that as a matter of, we should probably do this. We should probably take a look at our forecast confidence. This would be an interesting. I'm not sure we can, but if you take a look at the sales cycle time by forecast confidence, but I can tell you that our low probability opportunities have longer sales cycle times, most likely. Well, actually, they either have really short, or really long, because you know what? I'm not saying no to it yet. I'm not moving it to close loss. It's still something we're working on. Like we've got a situation where there's a condition that it's actually dependent on third party, whether or not that third party is going to be able to meet this condition. And so, it's in there, and we're doing things to stay top of mind, but it's a very slow play. It's a very low pull. It takes very, very little of our capacity. But again, if I was looking at sales velocity, it'd be killing my sales velocity number. Because it's also not that big of a deal.
Right.
Now, what's interesting is if we win it, it has the opportunity. If the condition can be met and we win it, it's got tremendous expand opportunity. Right. Yeah. And so, so my sales cycle number is insane, but this week I'm not doing anything on it, and we've got automated components that make sure that I don't forget. It's right. And so, in terms of how much we can handle, what we're every other element that really gets to the robustness and the resiliency is strong. And as we're looking at that metric, we want to be able to manage that. And by the way, that's another place where I'm kind of playing that deal desk on that, which is making sure that we have that gate and we don't waste a lot of time, et cetera.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I thought this was good. This was interesting.
I told you this was going to be a good one.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, thanks.
Well, Jess, I guess this is the last one we're doing until you're back from vacation. So here's a toast to you, Jess.
Cheers.
We'll talk to you on the other side.
Bye, everybody.
And that's a wrap on the last episode of the RevOps Show of this year. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to go subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Like I mentioned at the beginning, leave us a review and share the episode. If you have any questions you'd like to ask Doug or Jess, or have something you want them to discuss in the new year, email me at hannah@imaginellc.com or hit us up on Twitter @demandcreator. Until next time, remember, you can't solve your upstream problems downstream.